Being completely transparent right away, this video is partially me trying to sell you on my new PowerGrades and LUTs called Filmy that I've spent the last year or so developing and fine-tuning that I think turned out pretty great. But I also think you're gonna find a ton of value still in watching this video, from how I calibrate my monitor, to how I quickly color grade in Premiere, to how I do my formal color grading in DaVinci Resolve, my methods, my thought processes, just everything that goes into color grading. Also gonna make sure that I leave chapters for this video so that you can skip around to whatever is relevant for you. Color grading as a whole, though, is very subjective. Everyone has different tastes, perspectives, approaches, and in my opinion, there's no right or wrong, best or worst way to approach color grading. Color is also something that's so dependent on so many other independent variables, such as costume, skin tone of subject, location, lighting, camera profiles. There's so many different variable elements. So this is just my process in achieving a look that I really enjoy and a look that you've probably seen in most of my most recent films. It's a look that I would describe as rich and filmy, hence like the name of the PowerGrades and LUTs being filmy. But there's still like a little bit touch of digital in there. Like I wouldn't say I'm ever trying to fully replicate like a Kodak 16mm 250D or anything like that. It's just a look that I've found that I personally really enjoy. So I'm gonna go through that exact process, and then we're also just gonna color grade a handful of clips. So first things first, I'm always color grading in a dark space. It is noon right now. It's super bright out. My office is surrounded by windows. So I have blackout curtains, kind of just like closing off everything. It's not very fun to color grade in the dark, but I always find whenever I'm color grading with like green tint from the trees shining in, like it really affects the way that I'm seeing the colors on the screen. And I'll go back the next day and it'll look absolutely terrible. So I try to keep the room as dark as possible. So next I have an Apple Studio display and an Apple M1 MacBook Pro. And I usually go dual screen for this on the purpose of the screen recording. I can only really kind of fit one thing on here for you, so I'm just gonna be doing everything on my MacBook Pro. And this is the screen that I use to do my actual color grading on. This is the screen that I use for my preview. It's not the best in the world, there's much better. I know like iPads are better equipped for color grading. There's specific monitors meant intentionally for color grading, but again, I'm not a professional colorist. This is what I use to get by. One really good tip that I did get from a super good professional colorist who I've worked with in the past told me that if I am gonna color grade on this specific monitor, to go into displays and change the preset from Apple HDR display, which is what I had previously, to HD TV video BT709, and that's closer to a more traditional Rec 709 color space. You can't change the brightness or anything on your monitor, which is a little bit annoying, but it's like the perfect brightness and kind of like conditions to get the most accurate preview of what your color grade is gonna look like across other screens. So next, I do all my editing in Adobe Premiere still. That being said, I do all my formal color grading in DaVinci Resolve now. So say I'm just like working on a vlog, YouTube video or something, and I need to do quick color grading. Like, what do I do? If that's the case, I'm just gonna color grade with a Lumetri color inside Adobe Premiere. But when I'm working on a project that I really do care about, I'm gonna color grade in Resolve. So if I were going to do just a quick color grading session in Adobe Premiere, this is how I would do it. I have a bunch of test clips here at the bottom of my timeline with blank adjustment layers just over top. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come into my blank adjustment layer and input my LUT, my Filmy 56 LUT that I've been working on for the past year that I'm making available for everyone now. So this was S-Log3, so I'm gonna come into my Sony LUTs in my Filmy 56 for S-Log3 to a Rec 709 Filmy color space. And boom, right away, it's looking pretty good. I can see that it's a little bit overexposed. So how I'm gonna make micro adjustments to this clip is I'm gonna come to the actual clip itself now. I'm gonna click on it, and then I'm going to make adjustments underneath that LUT. So by making my adjustments to the clip underneath the adjustment layer that has that filmy conversion LUT, what's gonna happen is I'm gonna be essentially affecting just the log footage and have more flexibility and data to work with when I'm now affecting just the clip here. So like I said, I felt like I shot it a little overexposed, so I'm just gonna bring down the exposure a bit, Maybe bring down the shadows, make it a little bit more rich. Here it is in full screen, and I'll play it for you a couple times. Yeah, and that looks super good. That Filmy LUT is gonna make your life very easy, get you to a really good space right away. Yeah, what I will say about the Filmy LUT is I tried to make them so that they worked well on as many different environmental factors as possible while still giving a rich image that feels filmy. So let's just jump into a couple more quick color grades inside of Premiere. This is from my most recent film, She Looks So Free. I'm gonna come into, again, my adjustment layer. This was also shot on Sony, so I'm gonna use the Sony Filmy 56 S-Log3 to Rec 709. Boom, looks great, right out of the bag. I'm gonna make some micro adjustments here to the clip. I'm just gonna bring down the highlights a little bit. Maybe give it a little bit of warmth and a little bit more purple to give it more of a purpley look. And again, that's looking pretty good right away if I'm just doing quick color grades. Let's jump to an old Canon shot that I have, that's C-Log2 from a beer commercial that I shot in Mexico. I'm gonna click on the adjustment layer, go into the input LUT, browse. I'm gonna go back to my Filmy LUTs. I'm gonna click on Canon, this was S-Log2, so I'm gonna go Filmy 56, the C-Log2 to the Rec 709. Boom, right away. It's looking pretty good. I'm gonna come into the clip itself. Maybe I'll just take down the highlights a bit, move the shadows, and I don't know. I just feel like this is in a good spot right now. And I feel like I can move on if I'm doing a quick color grade. So you might find yourself with a clip that you've severely underexposed. So I'm gonna come in here, I'm gonna put on my Filmy LUT. This was Sony. And Filmy 56. And this shot, like, doesn't look great with the LUT because it is severely underexposed and the white balance is off. So I'm gonna quick make a few adjustments to the clip, bring the exposure up, change the white balance a little bit. And boom, now that Filmy LUT is working super well. So it's meant to be flexible for a lot of different situations. So like I said, when I put more time and effort in my color grades on my actual films, I like to color grade in DaVinci Resolve. So say I just edited this in Adobe Premiere and I was ready to export it for DaVinci Resolve. What I would do would be duplicate this sequence. I would take off all the Lumetri color stuff. I'll remove attributes. I'll get rid of just my Lumetri color. I'll come into the adjustment layer. I'll just get rid of those since this is a duplicate sequence. If I have any clips that are like stacked on top of each other, I'll make sure I'll bring them down just so I'm exporting one layer of only what's visible here, which again, I've already done. So let's turn over into DaVinci Resolve. So here I have my 4444 file that I saved to my hard drive. I'll bring it into my media bin, and then I'll right click in my media bin, go to timeline, import pre-conformed EDL, and I'll import that EDL. And then I can come over to color and you can see that all my clips are here and edited the way that they were in my Premiere timeline. So how I'll color grade inside Resolve is I'll use my PowerGrades that I've developed over the past years, the Filmy PowerGrades. So this clip that we were looking at earlier of this young woman on Novice Track Club, this was shot on Sony S-Log3. So I'm gonna come to my Sony PowerGrade and I'm just gonna one click apply grade. Boom, before, after. And as you can see in this shot, this is really where you're getting that filmy look, not only in the color and the contrast, but you're getting that nice grain texture. It's a really soft image. There's a little bit of halation happening. There's some dust, scratches that you're gonna see. This is something that, you know, I'm really proud of that I've made, and I think it's gonna work really well in a lot of people's color grading workflows coming up. So let me hide the gallery, move this over a little bit. This is the node tree here. When I first got into Resolve's nodes and DaVinci Resolve just as a whole felt very intimidating. So I tried to make a workflow that worked really nice and smoothly from left to right, but also was just simple and easy to understand for anyone who was first jumping into Resolve, or even if someone like me who just likes a simple workflow. At the core of this power grade, I have my Filmy LUTs, a Filmy 56 and the Filmy 39. And the 56 stands for 5600 and the 39 stands for 3900. And it's just, if you needed a cooler white balance, but mainly I'm using the Filmy 56. So that LUT, again, is doing all the work that you saw in Premiere, where it's converting from that log footage, that Filmy Rec 709. And all these nodes before it are affecting the log footage before it gets converted. And that really helps like bake in and sell like a more filmic look. And all this stuff looks like it was just a part of the image to begin with. So what I wanna do is just naturally go through and color grade a handful of clips using the Filmy PowerGrades, just so you can see my work through, my thought processes, and how I use these PowerGrades. And again, I feel like this shot was just a little bit overexposed when I first shot it. So I'm going to come into my exposure here. I'm going to go into my HDR panel, and I like to affect exposure here. So I'm gonna pull this down in my global HDR wheel to a spot that feels right to me. That feels good. I'm just trying to move this parade down and give it a little more density, make the shadows a little bit richer. I'm gonna come into my contrast. I'm gonna turn on my editable splines, and I'm gonna just pull down just my contrast a little bit here. Just make it a little denser. Maybe bring up my highlights just a touch, give it a little more punch. So that's what it's looking like currently. Man, that looks nice. I'm gonna go into my look adjustment. I might see what it looks like, just pushing a little bit of warmth into the highlights. So I'm gonna go to my gain wheel, just kind of give it a little bit of love there. So that's before, after, and honestly, I don't even like that. I kind of like how it originally was. One thing I'd say is I like a filmic look, but I also like a very clean filmic look. So one way of checking that is I like to use my qualifier and find the darkest parts of the image that are supposed to be black, pick her RGB value. And if those values are just about equal, that means your blacks are truly black. So you can see the black in her hair is very similar in value, which is showing me that my blacks in this footage are truly black. So yeah, so with very minimal adjustments to the power grade, I'm feeling pretty confident where this shot is looking for me. The other thing that's really nice about using power grades is if you're not liking how much grain is on a specific thing, you can come into the grain and you can change whatever I have in here. You can come into the halation and you can turn down the gain of the halation. You can really make these your own. Grab a still, save them for yourself. You can really save your own unique filmy looks to your taste and your preferences. So I wanna move on to some more clips here. We touched on this one earlier. Again, this was shot on Sony. I'm gonna hide my gallery. Right away, this clip is looking pretty awesome. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come into my contrast. I'm gonna come into my primary wheels, and I'm just gonna take my highlights down a little bit. See how they're like a little bit crushed over here? You can see everything's a little bit bunched up. I'm just gonna bring that down and stretch that out a little bit. And I like to keep my highlights, the top of my highlights around this 896 line if I can. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come into my white balance, and I'm just going to generally just make this warmer and a little purpler. And of course, this is all to taste here. So again, right away, I haven't done much. It's looking pretty sweet. Just to check my blacks, I'm gonna come into the qualifier and see where we're at. And the blacks are looking very clean, which is what I like. So let's just rapid fire through here. Here's a nice shot of my eye. I'm gonna come into the gallery. This was Sony. I'm gonna apply grade. And this is a good instance where the clip right away, it's looking a little warm to me, warmer than I would like. So I'm gonna try out the Filmy 39 LUT, and I think that looks much better right away. So that's the Filmy 56, and this is the Filmy 39. What I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna come into this relight section. I'm gonna create another power window here. I'm gonna stretch this out over top of my eye, invert it. And what I'm gonna do is take out some of the mid-tone details around my eyes and those wrinkles. So that's before. You can see it's a little bit sharper and a little more detail of my ugly skin. And boom, with that effect, it's softening up around it. And that's really easy to just pop in. Overall though, I think this shot looks really good from a balance perspective. Maybe I'll come in here and just turn down my highlights a touch, but they're not all that I wanna do. You can see some nice little halation happening in this spot in my eye here. I'm gonna turn that up a little bit. I'm gonna come into my halation and I'm going to just blast that. And you can see before, after, you're just getting a little bit more of that red glow. And I'll show you a clip now that you'll probably be able to see that a little bit better. It's an interior classroom. I'm gonna come into my gallery, apply my grade, my Filmy PowerGrade. Hide that. So right away, the shot's looking great and you're seeing that really nice halation around. And if you're feeling like that might be too much, you can lower the halation just by going into your key output and just pulling that down. So that's before, after, really slight difference. Or you could also come in here and just blast that thing. So that's blasting it, that's before. Blasting it before. I prefer a more subtle halation look. So again, this shot's looking pretty solid. I'm gonna come in the contrast, just take down my highlights a little bit because that spot on the back wall is a little hot. And then I'm gonna come in and just slightly make this a little bit cooler. So that's before, after. I'm feeling like this image is pretty much good to go. So let's go to that Canon clip that we did in Premiere. We're gonna use the Canon Filmy PowerGrade. Boom. Right away, this is what it looks like with one click, and it's looking really good. I'm gonna take a power window here. Where are the power windows? I'm gonna grab my gradient, invert it, and just pull that down this way to kind of draw a little more focus to our subject's face here. I'm gonna use the offset to pull it down. So that was before, after, and I think that's looking nice. Now, what I also wanna do here is I wanna come in my saturation, and this isn't your typical saturation, this is subtractive saturation, where I change the color space to HSV and change the channels to just be focused on channel 2. So in this saturation, I'm just gonna come into my primary color wheels, and how I'm gonna affect this is just by playing with the gain wheel here. So if I want more saturation, I'm gonna boost this up, and that's obviously way too much. So let's boost that up a little bit. So it's before, after. And what the subtractive saturation is doing is it's making your colors deeper. It's making them darker as they become more saturated, which gives you a more filmic saturation. So I think this clip looks awesome, just right away. Here's a nice interior shot on Sony. I'm gonna apply the grade. Boom, right away. That's looking pretty nice. And you can see that it works really well for so many different types of environments. What I'm gonna do in here is I'm gonna bring my contrast down a little bit. I'm gonna come into my curves, grab my editable spline, just make our image a little bit deeper here. Add a little bit of contrast by bringing this up. So that's what that's looking like right now. And now I'm just gonna add a little bit of something in the highlights here. I'm gonna come in the look adjustment. I'm gonna come into my primaries and just slightly nudge my gain. Let's make it like a little greenish blue. That was before and after. This is what that little look adjustment is doing just by affecting the color of the gain. You're getting a really solid look. But what you're not getting is dirty blacks. Like, I made sure that with this LUT, like, you're gonna get clean blacks unless you mess it up. So just coming over to the dark parts of the images that are supposed to be black, you can see the values are very similar, which means you're getting like a black. So let's go to that example that I showed you in Premiere earlier of the clip that was super underexposed. Come in the gallery, this was Sony, apply grade. And as you can see, this image looks so dark. Was not shot well by me. You can see here on the parade, everything is just like super low. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna really stretch this image out. I'm gonna come into my exposure, my HDR, and really pump this up to get it to a proper level where everything's floating in this middle area. The highlights aren't coming too far above where I'd like them at this top line. So that was before the exposure, this is after, and I think this looks really nice. The other thing I noticed is the white balance is a little yucky. So I'm gonna see if our Filmy 39 is a better spot to start with. And I think it is. It's still a little cool, but I think it's a better starting place. So I'm gonna come into my white balance, gonna come into my offset wheel and just push a little bit of warmth back into the image. That's before, after. And I think this looks awesome. We kind of salvaged a really poorly shot image, and it's looking a little yucky and a little noisy in the back here. So this is an example of when I'm gonna use my noise reduction that I've dialed into a nice area that I like. So that's before, you can see that noise in there, and that's after. I'm not sure what YouTube compression is going to do to this, so not sure if you'll be able to see those very minute details, but hopefully you can. So yeah, that's how I color grade. I created a really solid method that works really well for myself. And like I said, like this was kind of gonna be an advertisement for my Filmy LUTs and presets, but they just work really well and it's really quick. Just like boom, one click, just a really nice, beautiful image without doing anything right away. Here's an Ari Alexa clip. Boom, one click, apply grade, and you know, this clip was underexposed, and with very minimal work, by pulling up the exposure a little bit, we're in a really good spot that has, you know, nice grain, texture, halation, dust, scratches. It's got that really nice, dense, rich, filmy look that I enjoy. They're what I use now. I took the time to really dial in a look that I was happy with and that works on pretty much all the films that I work on, and work on a variety of different camera profiles. So I wanted to be able to share those and make them available for anyone who wants to purchase them and use them in their own workflow. So if you're interested in incorporating the Filmy LUTs and PowerGrades in your color grading workflow, you can get them at filmycolor.com. I'll show you what you get real quick. A zip file that you'll open up, and in the zip file, you'll have your Filmy LUTs for the different camera profiles that they're available for. Filmy monitoring LUTs, like right now I'm monitoring with my Filmy 56 S-Log3 LUT that I have on my small HD monitor. It's really nice to be able to monitor with the LUT that you're gonna be color grading with. So that's available in there. And then the Filmy PowerGrades that you're gonna be able to import into DaVinci Resolve. And if you're new to all this, I included a PDF that has links to instructional videos. So if you don't know how to go about importing PowerGrades into DaVinci Resolve, there's a whole instructional video that goes in and breaks down every single individual node within the PowerGrades. Yeah, again, I told you it was kind of gonna be like an ad for Filmy, but nonetheless, hope you got some sort of value out of this video. And thanks for watching as always. Love you.